Mr Chairman, in 4.5 months, the voters of Auckland will be deciding on their new mayor, their new council and the local boards. And I, for one, am looking forward to that day, because our city needs to be brought into the 21st era. We have been ham-shackled by a creaky local governance situation, and you only have to look at our waterfront to see how the detriment of that, and in fact you only have to look at our transport system to see the problems of the system today. Actually, the previous government recognised that reality. That is why they appointed the Royal Commission, although you would never know it, judging by the debates being made in this House tonight and indeed previously. The reality is Auckland needs this reform, New Zealand needs this reform, and it's time that we got on with doing it. This is the third bill. This locks the key part of the architecture in place. And Mr Chairman, I want to deal with really the two core issues. Firstly, the local boards. Secondly, the council-controlled organisations. So many people seem to believe that the local boards will have limited or very little power. That is simply false. It's a falsehood spread by the political opponents to this bill that bears no relationship to what is set out in the material in the bill and is frankly a result of propaganda. So let's look at what the local boards will actually be able to do. They will, for instance, deal with local board plans. They will, for instance, deal with all local civic duties, Anzac Days and all sorts of local events such as that. They will deal with all the issues around community development, arts and culture in their particular area. Victoria Theatre would be a case in point. And they will deal with libraries, and there are numerous libraries in what will be the Takapuna and Devonport local board. Parks and recreations, large number of parks in the region, not the regional parks, all the parks that most people use on a daily or weekly basis for a walk, sports or taking the dog for a walk. Economic development, including town centres, Marangi Bay, Devonport and many other places through Auckland, and indeed local environmental issues. These are local boards with real power and real accountability back to the people. And I am confident that in fact there will be a substantial number of people seeking office for these boards, because unlike the community boards at present, the local boards will have real power, real influence, significant delegation of budget to actually make a difference. It is in fact fulfilling the promise that was sought by so many people, giving real governance to the local people through their local boards. But of course, governance of our city is not just dependent on the local boards. It is also dependent on the city and the council-controlled organisations. So let's look at those as well. Transport, water care, economic development, investments, waterfront and amenities. Mr Chairman, those are important roles and we need them properly governed. They of course will be implementing the Council's priorities. Indeed, under this bill they are required to do so. But do you really want the 20 councillors deciding the water rates? Do you really want the 20 councillors deciding which pipes go where? Or should that be left to water care? Actually, right now, it is. Virtually every local authority has delegated that power to a council-controlled organisation. And I suggest to members opposite that one of the first and most immediate gains that Aucklanders across our city will see is improved water quality, more efficient delivery and, frankly, an opportunity for lower prices. That is the opportunity that a much more and effective approach around council-controlled organisations will deliver. I simply cannot understand why the opposition has been so opposed to these council-controlled organisations, because in truth there are already 41. This will reduce it to 7 far more effective local council-controlled organisations that will provide real delivery and will be accountable back to the council and to the people. Mr. Chairman.
Dr. Wayne.
These are hugely important organisations and will be effective for our city. Mr. Chairman, can I say this? The Select Committee and the local authority ministers, both Mr. Hyde and Mr. Carter, have listened very carefully to the public of New Zealand, and they have made major changes to this bill, including, in fact, the SOPs being tabled. They have listened to the submissions. That is why 2 positions on each of the council-controlled organisations are being left to the city to appoint them. And so, Mr. Chairman, it seems to me that the opposition has simply misunderstood, either willfully or ignorantly, the distinction between governance and management, because you have to have, for effective modern governance, council-controlled organisations to undertake the delivery. Of course, they should be dependent on the powers conferred upon them by the local authority itself, the Auckland City Council, and they will be so. And can I say this to the other side as well? I keep hearing them going on and on and on about Maori representation. Frankly, the new council will have the choice, and there are candidates out there who are providing genuine proposals to voters to provide that choice. Surely the other side believe in democracy. Surely they can't be opposed to the voters of Auckland actually having that particular choice, because they will have opposing candidates to choose. But I know what we hear from them is an echo to the arguments on behalf, issues that have actually been long dealt with in the previous 2 bills. And I say to those members that in 4.5 months, our city gets to make a dramatic change in its governance. And what does that actually mean? It means taking our city from the 20th century into the 21st century. And what I have noticed is this, and John Banks has been very, very clear on this point. We have a clear choice in Auckland. Do we want to be a city that is a vibrant, forward-looking city, admired by other cities around the Asia-Pacific, the Pacific Rim, seen as a destination? Because that is ultimately the choice that we're facing the voters. And I say to the voters, they should be looking at the prescriptions of both the leading candidates at the present moment and making their judgment ultimately on this. How do they perceive our city, looking into the future as the engine driver of the New Zealand economy, our portal to the world that makes us a relevant and vibrant place for the future? That is the choice we face, and that is ultimately what this bill is actually about.
The Honourable